Hey folks, Damien with Southpaw Designs. What if I told you that there was a potential market that you may be overlooking that can bring you repeat business throughout the year and repeat every year? Now, I'm in a unique position to really talk about this market, being a high school teacher, and it's something that most other YouTube channels, at least the ones that I've seen, really never talk about. So we're going to build this project and then we're going to talk about that market. To begin with, let's take our design to our CNC. Now for this, I'm using 1/2-inch MDF board, and the actual soccer ball that you see right there was found online on Wikipedia, and it is a public domain graphic. Now, once I have the design cut out, I am going to move on to this round over bit to give a nice rounded off edge, and then we'll take it over to the sander to clean up those edges. Now, in hindsight, if you look really close later on, you'll see that it could have been sanded better. This is the first time I did this project, and I could have done a better job, so don't judge me too much. Next, we will move over to the prep area, clean it off, get rid of any of that extra sawdust, clean it up really good and wipe it down. And next comes the sealant. I like to seal using shellac. I have sprayed it in the past, but I think the brush on is more economically friendly, tends to go a lot further. And I'm going to put on 2 coats of shellac here and let that dry. Now this is really just a seal coat so that when we start spraying and putting our epoxy in there, it won't bleed. Now let's move on to the painting. I'm just using a can of Krylon spray paint. I have purchased a paint sprayer, but and as soon as I get that up and going, I'm going to transition over there to hopefully improve my painting game. Once painting is done, I should have put them on these little stilts right here. Didn't do so. So now let's fix that so that we can paint those edges. Now always go with short sprays and try to avoid any kind of bleed if you can. All right, let's set these up to dry and then move on to our epoxy. Next, we'll move on to the epoxy. I wanted to epoxy these just to give them a really nice, neat look instead of just painting them. And it turns out great, as you'll see right in the end. Now, getting in the edges right there, and those little corners and those smaller lines are kind of tough. So I really just use a little piece of wood to kind of pull the epoxy into it. But then also, as you'll see here in just a minute, I did get some syringes that are fairly tight that allow me to get into those tight little areas. And as you'll see right here, these are some syringes that I found on Amazon. I'll put a link down in the description. And these are really handy for being able to get in those small areas. In fact, I even found some smaller ones for more precise areas that I'll link as well. All right, once we have our epoxy done, let's move on and use just a simple little lighter, torch, whatever you want to call it, to try to get those bubbles out of there. And I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to do the names and the engravings, so I put that off. In the future, when I do this, I'll come up with that design first because I had to do some cleanup and get rid of some of these burrs. But I put it back on the CNC to actually engrave the names and the numbers, as you'll see right here. I'm using a 60-degree V-bit for these. Now let's move on to putting epoxy in the names and numbers. You will see I'm using these syringes this time, and it makes it go much more smoothly. This is just a spent mechanical pencil that I'm using to even out those edges. And when all is said and done, We let them dry, and here we go. So what is that market and how do you get into it? The market is high schools. High schools are always on the lookout for unique gift ideas for their players and seniors, specifically in sports. In Central Kentucky, we have the following sports. We have football, soccer, cross country, volleyball, golf, esports, basketball, bowling, swim and dive, wrestling, track and field, archery, cheerleading, marching band, tennis, baseball, and softball, if I've remembered everything. And every single one of those sports have seniors that graduate every year, and booster clubs are always on the lookout for unique gift ideas to give their seniors and awards for their players. So that could be plaques, it could be uniquely designed projects that are perfect to create in your woodshop or your CNC. And the best part is when these seniors graduate, the next year there's a new crop of seniors that will come in, and so those booster clubs are always on the lookout for unique gift ideas. This means that there's great potential for those booster clubs and for those sports to come back every year looking for new, unique gift ideas and awards for their seniors and for their star players and their honored players. And one thing to remember is that booster clubs are typically going to be separate from high schools, so they don't follow the same rules where they have to buy from somebody who's on a bid list or something like that. Booster clubs are typically external organizations that can spend money and buy things that they want to buy. So getting in good with booster clubs is a good way to have repeat business come back to you over and over again. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't done so, please hit that like button down below, subscribe, leave a comment. Those metrics really tell the YouTube algorithm that this is valuable content and helps this channel to grow at absolutely no cost to you. So get out there and make some stuff, and can't wait for the next one.